that book basically talks about, how finding your why can be so important, the reason you exist, and there is, for those viewers that are watching us right now, there is some like questions that you can kind of come out from this video asking yourself that can help you deepen your self-awareness and maybe get towards building, or finding what career path, or maybe discovering a little bit more about yourself. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Out of the Box podcast, where Steele and I, your hosts, get to talk about outside of the box ideas. Today, we have a topic about self awareness, how that helps you in life, how that helps you in your career, and just overall helps you have a happier life. So, before we actually get into the topic, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel because we are completely committed to providing outside of the box ideas for you each and every single week. So please feel free to subscribe to our channel. And also, as we progress through this conversation, please leave a like or a comment about what you thought was really interesting that we mentioned. We will really like to know what resonates with our community so that we can interact with you as well and continue providing the content that would be interesting to you. So without further ado, so we're going to be talking about self-awareness. So this was one of the topics that I kind of thought of introducing into the podcast just because nowadays it actually tends to be very outside of the box kind of deal, because I feel like maybe our society has kind of pushed us to kind of take things for granted. And so we just pass through life, not really noticing or being aware why we do things or why we are the way we are, right? And so specifically, I guess I want to gear it towards focusing on maybe finding your purpose and being aware of what that is, right? And so, Steele, has there been a time in your life where you've kind of tried to figure out what your purpose is? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I want to say maybe by the end of high school, or maybe just during high school, because that's when a lot of people are trying to find their purpose. But I mean, I've always been creative, and I've always done creative pursuits. And ever since elementary school, I knew filmmaking was one purpose and one goal. But in terms of an inner purpose, a deeper one, and maybe it ties in with identity formation. I don't know, but I think it looked like just trying to go through life and experience life and just taking it in one step at a time and adapting along the way, and then just trying to reflect on that maybe later on. Maybe I
Right.
think maybe I did most
So
of our
it's been like a self-changing kind of purpose in a way, or
yeah.
what?
I think
Or or maybe the mission has changed, but the purpose kind of still stays the same.
yeah, that's and
Because if you think about it, we're almost created. It's almost like I like to consider it almost like trees. A pear tree is grows to create pears. An apple tree grows to create apples, right? So a banana tree is not going to create apples; it's going to create bananas, right? And so, in a way, it has already a purpose in itself to create something to the world, right? And I feel like we're also those trees as well, that we already have an innate, you know, inclination to do something really good for the world, right? So some people are born to become really great business people, some of them very good artists, some of them very good teachers, psychologists and so on. And so, you know, I think sometimes our purpose is innate to us, right? And our mission is the only thing that changes. Like what we actually do with that purpose changes throughout time, but our purpose continues, throughout our life. And so it's almost like the essence of who we are to the world, what we can provide value to the world, aside from our skills, it's an innate process, right? Or innate thing that comes within you to the world. And then you practice that process or that purpose through music, through writing, through speaking in public. And so, but that purpose comes from within and out through different mediums that you learn throughout life. Like you learn to be a good writer, and so your purpose gets channeled through that. Or you learn to be a really good, I don't know, businessman, and you channel your inner purpose through businesses, right? And so it's something that kind of boggled my mind a little bit. And so I was interested in seeing your perspective on that purpose being an innate aspect in us.
An innate aspect, yes. It brings two things to mind. So I think, yeah, purpose. If we could think of purpose as we could think of it as several things, but if we could take a biological route, a psychological route, biological psychology, and say, well, evolutionarily speaking, we do need a purpose to live. So we need to follow that purpose in order to survive. And we base our purpose on our survival needs. But, we've become more advanced since then, since the old times where we had to just survive and not die. But now it's actually, we have all these things around us. We live in a different world. We live in a safer world. So we create new means of purpose. So you could look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have the needs at the bottom. Now, this sounds like way off track, but I'm getting to it. So like the needs at the bottom are like shelter, food, and stuff like that. The survival needs that I just talked about. But then you go up higher and higher, and as you go higher and higher, you realize, well, it turns into self-actualization, where you're talking about being an artist, playing music, finding your purpose in those things. That's more about self-actualization. So once we've accomplished those basic survival needs, which most of us have in the modern world, so now we see more people on YouTube and stuff like that, artists, and it's not like it hasn't artists haven't been around before, but it seems more, at least more well known now, and more people want to kind of do a lot of that now, which makes sense. We have more of our survival needs taken care of, so now we can do that and explore that. So then the other thing it makes me think of, I think the biological aspect underlies that purpose, maybe, in some way, or at least when you take care of that, then you can get to that higher level, purpose seeking through music and art and other things that you enjoy. But I think even if, even like as a Christian, we can believe that too. Like from the Christian perspective, we say God has
Mhm.
given us a purpose and
Yeah.
it's in within us. But even if you're not Christian, even if you're an atheist, even if you're a nihilistic philosopher, or an existential philosopher where you believe that, you still have to believe as an existential philosopher, even somewhat of nihilism, that, well, then if God doesn't exist and if he doesn't create our purpose, then we create our own purpose. And it's up to us and it's our responsibility to follow that purpose and go for it. Even if you don't believe that God created or we don't have an innate purpose, then you have to come to believe that we have to create our own meaning under the existential view and create our own purpose. And the only way we're going to accomplish our purpose is by actually taking the steps to follow it. But if you believe in God, you can still say, God gave me this purpose, but I can't just leave it up to him. I have to take steps myself under my own free will, under God, to chase that
Yeah.
purpose.
And I guess like even for those people who might be in those situations, even the biological aspect, our DNA changes from human to human. And so that means that sometimes we're more prone to certain things based on what our ancestral you know family members did, and so sometimes we find that we're really good musicians. Well, I don't have any musicians in my family. Well, actually, my grandfather was a musician. Oh, I didn't know that. And so sometimes things get passed down inherently, because sometimes it's evolution. I would say, we microevolution that you yourself created and focused, the stress and all the things that you learn in life sometimes do get passed down to your next generations. And it's almost inherently, or maybe it skips a generation, but it still passes on in some way, which is so fascinating, right? That we continue to have this, like the skills that we have in our personality itself. is drawn a lot from family members. And so, maybe they can look at it in that sense. But either way, I feel like there's this innate purpose, right, that we all carry within ourselves, and we just express it through different means. Like, somebody might be like a good counselor, but they express it, even though they're not a counselor, but maybe at work, they tend to be that person everyone is drawn to because they just feel heard, they feel accepted or welcomed, and so they're drawn to those people for counseling. And so even though one might not fall into that position specifically, they have inherent, purpose in life. Whether they received a lot of education or not, they just carry it out within the medium that they were offered in life. So sometimes some people weren't given the opportunity to go to school. So whatever they have at their disposition, they carry their purpose through that medium, right?
Right.
And so
Personality.
I guess that's kind of how I can break it down a little bit in my head.
And tying it back to self-awareness, you have to be self-aware to have purpose, right? I mean, or is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to ask yourself questions, and have to be willing to ask yourself questions, because I think for a lot of intuitive thinkers, I would say, I would consider you as well as an intuitive thinker. We tend to be comfortable, ever since birth to really ask deeper questions. Some people who are more realist, and think more realistically, for them it's harder to think about theoretical aspects that maybe are not, real life. They're more like what's now, what's in the moment kind of deal. And so they look at what's actually the facts and what's the reality, and not in the theoretical. And so I would say that, in that aspect, what were we kind of mentioning about the self-awareness?
Yeah, so like you have to be self-aware to have a purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I guess like their self-awareness for those people come in a different way. It's more in like, oh, okay, I'm a good cook, so I must try cooking to see if it's something that would be something in my life that would work out
Yeah,
as a
try it
career.
out.
And so for them, it might be more of a realistic aspect of like, oh, a lot of people tell me I do this really good, then I should try this, right? But for a lot of intuitive thinkers, it's more like they go to the questions like, why am I living? Like more of the philosophical aspect, like, why do I exist? And maybe ask themselves deeper questions. And so sometimes, those people can go into deeper questions, and can help other people ask themselves those bigger questions,
I think what you're saying
right?
is like we have
And so I
ask
definitely
ourselves
think
why.
there's a big role.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have to ask ourselves why am I doing this and why do I want this to figure out what we want
yeah,
for purpose.
yeah. There's a book. Simon Sinek. He's one of a speaker. He wrote this book. It's more related towards business, but I think I have it right here. I think it's the reasons of why, or start with why. That's what it is. Start with why. And that book basically talks about, how finding your why can be so important, the reason you exist, and there is, for those viewers that are watching us right now, there is some like questions that you can kind of come out from this video asking yourself that can help you deepen your self-awareness, and maybe get towards building, or finding what career path, or maybe discovering a little bit more about yourself. So one of the things that Simon Sinek actually talks about in one of his YouTube videos was to call three friends, that you would say are, really good friends, each other for a while. And, basically you would call them at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. and they would be there, to answer the phone. And so call them and ask them, why they value your relationship as a friend, and maybe go deeper than the surface level, because some people might say, well, I like you because you're funny and because you listen to me, and we just enjoy a good time together. Well, go deeper than that. If they do answer with those things, like, go deeper than that, like, but why? That's usually any friend would have that. Any friend that I have around me, I want them to be good to talk with, and want them to be funny in a way, you know but go deeper than that. Ask them, like, why specifically you are friends with them. And sometimes they might come out with, like, say, like, I don't know, you're very inspiring whenever I talk to you, or you're very welcoming. It's something I don't get very often. They start telling you something deeper. They're like, oh wow. So those are sometimes where you can find your why, right? And so another question that was recommended by, I believe it was also Simon Sinek, was, if you could do something for free, what would that be? And so that's a good question to ask yourself. If you could do anything for free, or have done something for free, what would that be? If you could get paid to talk to people, maybe you would be a great promoter, right? Or a great advertiser. If you could get paid to talk to people and maybe listen to them as well, maybe a counselor or psychologist, and so going into that, what would you get paid for? And you would just be amazed by that, or like, you would be boggled and so out of your mind that somebody would be willing to pay you for that, and so something you would do for free. And then another question would also be, what are things that you enjoy? Mark that down throughout life, right? Mark that down throughout life. And yeah, in the course of your life, what are things that have kind of taken you outside of your body, or you just definitely enjoyed? It could be dancing, drawing, whatever that might be. Just write it down, and then at the end, look at what those things have in common. And so once you look at what those things have in common, you can start figuring out a little more of your why, and it gives you, some self-awareness, and a better compass, because we all have a compass, but we have to learn to follow it. And I think our purpose is that compass, guiding us to through life, right? And so how we carry out different things that we do around us is geared because of our compass, right? And so yeah, is there anything else you would add to that, Steele, or anything you thought was interesting within those three examples?
What stands out to me the most as we're wrapping up is like, yeah, definitely like asking the why. um why why am I doing what I'm doing? So like, I like what you asked me before about career, like, what would you do for free? That's the most important question, I think, especially when you're talking about purpose. If what you're I mean, if what you're doing right now and you're not getting paid for it, but you still enjoy it, you genuinely find joy in it, whether it's you, Jose, with your music and your editing, or it's me with my editing and movie making and diorama building and even counseling. I've done those things for free, and I've still enjoyed it for free. And now I'm starting to get paid for some of those things later on.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't feel like work when you reach that level, because you've enjoyed it and you still enjoy it. And doesn't mean it's gonna be perfect every single time, but at the very least you have something you enjoy and you get paid for most of the time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, couldn't have said it best. Well, if you come to the end of this video, we really appreciate your time. And also, was there something interesting that caught your attention? Let us know if you actually try out those examples. We would love to know those answers down below. Also, please leave a like if you did like this video. Really help the channel. So if you can give us a thumbs up, that would really be appreciated by us. It can help us continue creating more content like this. And also subscribe to our channel, because we are committed to providing you amazing content throughout, these next couple of weeks again. So we're providing weekly content for you guys here on YouTube. So we look forward to talking to you soon. And until next time, take care.